Hi, I'm Dr. Ozoma and welcome to Swaro. This YouTube channel is under the auspices of School of Amazing Reprogram. If you're new to this channel, please I'd like you to hit the subscribe button. Today I'll be telling you how you can deal with depression. Stick around, I'll be right back. So the big question is, what is depression? Depression is a group of mental disorders, particularly mood disorders, that is associated or that is characterized by elevation and lowering of person's mood. And there are a few of them under that group. You have the clinical depression, which is this mood disorder that is characterized by persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Now, I need you to note that for every depression, the diagnosis must be made by a trained medical personnel. Then there is also the persistent depressive disorder. Just like the name suggests, it's usually persistent, and this person can be in it for months, even years. There's this persistence about the depression. There's bipolar disorder, which is characterized by depressive lows and manic highs. There's also postpartum depression. So, what are the signs that you will notice and you say this fellow is depressed? The first sign I'd like to talk to you about is apathy. These ones are usually apathetic. They are usually apathetic. They have no interest in life, no interest in food, no interest in sex, no interest in pleasure. They're just apathetic. And that is how they live their life. Another sign you will see is overwhelming sluggishness. They're usually slow in activity, no urgency, just want to do it in a very slow manner, just that way. Another sign you will notice is lack of concentration. Lack of concentration. So I remember this caricature I saw sometime recently, and a young man met his boss. He wanted to take 2 weeks to go plan his wedding, and he told his boss. My boss said, "What? You are about to plan your wedding?" He said, "You have bad breath, you smell bad, you have bad temper, you are broke. Who is that foolish girl that wants to marry you?" And the young man said, "Your daughter, sir." And the man shouted, "What?" So it taught me that this boss had no idea who his son-in-law was. He lacked concentration in an area where he shouldn't lack concentration. That is something you will notice even in people who are depressed. They usually lack concentration. Another thing you will notice is poor appetite. They have no interest in your food. It doesn't matter how nice looking it is. They have no interest in it. So what are the causes of depression? What are the causes of depression? I'll give you a few of them. Number one is stressful event. And when I say stressful event, it's a whole lot that is lumped up there. Job loss, money loss. So imagine, and I tell you this, when a man loses his job, it's one of the stressful moments of his life. One of the stressful moments of his life. He has to go back to the drawing board and figure out who he actually is, how he can push his life forward from that point. It's a very stressful moment. Imagine a businessman who loses 10 million out of his capital. Imagine what he would feel. It is these stressful moments that are triggers for depression. Divorce is also another trigger in that stressful event. These are the stressful events that take place. Another one is bereavement. When you lose a loved one, someone you have cherished, someone you have spent a good part of your life together with, a loved one, a partner. It's a very stressful event, and these are triggers that can cause depression. Another is childbirth, especially when the circumstances surrounding the pregnancy and the childbirth seem very unpalatable to the young lady. It usually triggers depression. The third I'll talk about is alcohol and illicit drug use. Alcohol is a very, very, very good suspect when you talk about depression. For those who are chronic alcoholics, it tends to push them even way too deep into depression, because alcohol has this effect on your body. It tends to abruptly stop the REM sleep. REM sleep is that rapid eye movement sleep that you need to restore your body back to the full energy that you require to start your day. But what alcohol does is that it truncates it and leaves you feeling very depressed. If you have tested alcohol at any point, you can confirm this. Another one is illicit drug use. Drugs have very negative effect on the mood of a person, even your mental capacity. If you have taken any drug at any point, or if you're used to taking drugs as a young person, I assure you, you are not doing yourself a great service. You are not doing yourself a great service. I remember my lecturer telling us back in medical school that if you meet anyone who is taking hard drugs, it's just a matter of time they will show up in the hospital as a psychiatric patient. So these are some of the curses of depression. So how can one solve depression? What is the solution out of it? How can one solve depression? And I like to tell you that most patients who are depressed would either need medication or psychotherapy, or even both. They will either need medication, psychotherapy, or even both. But today I'd like to talk to you or delve a little deep into psychotherapy. And the first thing I want to talk about is withdrawing the offending drug. In the case where the causative agent is alcohol or any of the offending drugs, any of the hard drugs people use, the best step which must be taken first is to withdraw the offending drugs. And you don't withdraw it abruptly. You withdraw it gradually, especially if they are chronic users. The reason is that you don't want to elicit withdrawal symptoms, which oftentimes is as bad as depression. The second point I want to talk about is productivity. If you can get around people who are productive, if you can infuse yourself into a team of productive people, it tends to deals with depression. You have no room for it anymore, because you have gotten yourself into this team, into this group of people who are productive. And it's a bad thing. It's the best thing you can do to yourself, to get into that group of people. Fill your day with productivity, not just activity. Fill your day with productivity. Remember the story of Samuel in 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 1. When Samuel, who anointed the first king of Israel, Saul, and after some time, Saul started misbehaving, and God rejected him from being the king over Israel. And Samuel went on for days and even weeks mourning for Saul. And God asked him one day, "How long will you mourn for Saul, seeing that I have rejected him from being king over my people, from reigning over my people?" And he gave him an instruction. He said, "Fill up your horn with oil. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have chosen one of his sons as king." So Samuel, when I read that, I began to ask myself, is he not the same God who, when he talked to Abraham, simply told him, "Get thee out of your father's house to a land I will show you." There was no scope of the journey presented to Abraham. But to Samuel now, to the depressed Samuel, God needed to give him the full scope of his journey. And that brought this notion to my mind, that activity may get you up, but productivity will surely get you going. So God needed Samuel to get productive again. Samuel had withdrawn, had thrown himself into that state where nothing mattered anymore to him. He just wanted to give up on everything around him. But God needed him to get out of that state and get going. He needed to push himself. So he gave him a full scope of the journey. So Samuel knew that first he was going to anoint a new king, and his destination, Bethlehem. When he gets to Bethlehem, he was to go to the house of Jesse. It was a clear scope of journey because God needed him to be productive. When you get around people who are productive, it clarifies the journey before you. You tend to see even steps ahead of you. You tend to see steps ahead of you. Now, and Samuel began to ask God, so what if Saul hears this? I'm not sure he'll be very happy with me. And God told him, take a heifer and go. And when you get there, say, I have come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Now, you may not understand what happened there, but this is what it is. So a heifer is just a young cow that is just 1 year old. What is so important about a young cow that is just 1 year old? If God needed a sacrifice, he would have just stated it. But believe me, the sacrifice was not the important thing. The important thing was to get Samuel to go and get himself productive and be productive. Fill your day with productivity. Don't let any day slip by. Don't let any day pass you by. Fill each day with productivity. And I have done it to myself. I speak from experience. I myself, I have struggled with depression, so I can tell you what you can do and you can get out of it. In just a matter of 3 months, I was able to finish 2 books. The 3rd book was also about to be finished. So 3 books were written, 2 finished. The 3rd one just about to be finished. This was something that happened because I began to fill my day, each day, with productivity. Fill my day with productivity. If you think deeply about these things, you will find a way out. There is no journey before you that no one else has gone. You just have to find the people who have gone that journey and surround yourself with them. This is Dr. Uzoma, and you are listening to Soar Up. I'd like you to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button also for more notifications as I drop new videos. Till I come your way next time. Peace.